Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our MAO live event. Thank you so much for joining us. This is really exciting to be back here, and especially with the guest that we have today, Rachel Sager. Please, in the chat, let us know where you are from. And also, don't forget to click our red subscribe button so that you can find out about future events here at our YouTube channel. We are so thrilled to have Rachel back here for her 2021 Ruins Tour. And if you missed it, we had a tour last year, our 2020 Ruins Tour. You can find that at our YouTube channel. So after this or another time, feel free, pop over there and check out that video, plus many of our other MAO live events that we've had over the last year and a half. So Rachel Sager, as you might know, and maybe if you don't and you're new here, has turned her property across the street from her home, which is an abandoned coal mine, into a living, breathing Mosaic museum. And it is quite a special place. The Ruins has become a collaboration effort with Rachel and a multitude of Mosaic artists from around the world. So sit back today with your favorite refreshment, hopefully, while we spend an hour plus. This could go as long as an hour and a half with questions, as Rachel shares some of the most recent installations at the Ruins. And don't forget to stay till the end, because we do have a really special, generous bonus. Rachel is going to share some of the artists' names that created pieces for the Ruins. She may show your work if you're here now, but not your name. So please understand, we only have a limited time for this event. So know Rachel more than appreciates your participation in the Ruins, even if she cannot recognize you today. So without further ado, I would like to welcome back my very good friend and one of our MAO Mosaic Artist Instructors, Rachel Sager.
Thank you, Tami. I'm so excited. I was just thinking as you were talking about how many hundreds of live tours I have given of the Ruins over these last 6 years, and how different this kind of virtual tour is. There is no perfect Ruins tour, and what you mentioned about not being able to shout out everyone's name in this short hour that we have is just a necessity. My focus for this tour for this year is the big picture. I've been, posting about that all week, and so I have a bigger goal for what I want to communicate with all of you. So you'll see lots of art, and I do apologize if I don't say everyone's name, but I wanted to just give a little overview of 6 metaphors that, or maybe it's 5 metaphors that I'm going to be touching on throughout the tour. So I'm just going to put them in your head now so you can think about them as we weave through the tour. The first one is time, the big time with a capital T. That can be geologic time. The other one is industry versus nature, men versus the land. One is we come from coal, so the people that come from this part of the world, where I come from. This is a Rust Belt Appalachian property. These are the people I come from, and that's really number one with everything that we're doing here. And the melting pot is another metaphor that is a lot of fun to play with. I'll mention that a few times. Another one is the threshold, physical threshold, metaphysical threshold, emotional threshold. And the last one, which I'm really excited about, has just been forming in my head recently, is the cathedral. And we'll be talking about that too. So I think just with those ideas, we can get started, and let's take me to the front door.
All right, just so everybody knows, the tour is a pre-recorded tour that Rachel has done and has been edited by our producer, Jerry. And so we are going to get started with part 1, but then there will be a quick intermission, which just means I'm going to flip over to part 2. We hope there are no technical glitches, but if there are, stay on the channel and we will be right back. Don't go anywhere. It may show a buffering. That means we may be dropped out or something happened, but just stick with us because we've got this pretty hammered out. We've done a couple rehearsals, but just so you know, nothing's perfect in this cyber techno world, especially with me at the helm. All right, so here we go. 1 second.
Here we are at the front door. Um, and in a way, this is starting at the beginning and the end of the tour. So when you arrive at the front door, I stand there and I talk about, the beginning history. And then right there at the wall of names on the right is where we end the tour. I'm just going to give you a nice long shot. This is one of my favorite spots right here with all this green corridor that's going down one of the biggest walls that we have. And so a lot of my camera shots are focused for this tour on the bones of the ruins themselves, the concrete, the lines, the architecture, the angles, the corners, looking through one doorway into another, framing a piece of art with the ruins themselves. The Pheasant is a New Bird by Joanne Daschle, part of the Feather Project, which is a collection of native Pennsylvania birds made in high detail by mosaic artists. This is the Wall of Names. I'm going to just pan up slowly. And this is where I end my tour normally. And I wrap things up and I tell people to look at this list. What do you notice about this list of all these names? And how I describe it is that it is about 98% women. This is the ruins and mosaic is a very female-centered art in the world right now. We're certainly not chasing the men away. We'd like more men, but they're just not showing up. We have a few, but remember I mentioned the word time and what a big metaphor time is, and the 100 years that has passed since this coal mine was in operation. I think about that a lot. It was masculine energy. It was all manpower. That's what made this coal mine work. And now you fast forward those 100 years and all of this feminine, creative, healing energy has come into this place. The script has flipped. Fascinates me. The cathedral, this arch has always felt like a cathedral ceiling to me. Lillian Sizemore gifted me one day with the phrase cathedral to coal, and I have embraced it completely. And I am now kind of running with the word and looking for parts of the ruins that feel cathedral-like. So I'm looking in the glossary terms of different parts of the cathedral, like the apse and the nave and the choir and alcove, vestry, beautiful words that are associated with cathedral. And then, there's, of course, the wonderful connection that we have to the European past of the cathedrals, Ravenna and Venice, and all of that knowledge that we are connected with as mosaic artists, with smalti and the gold and the ornamento and the learning. So cathedral is a really, really good metaphor for us to sink our teeth into in the future. This is a little bit of ruins whimsy. That's what I call this, whimsy. Megan Walsh and Jill Chisnell, kind of a little rogue chicken. And I am looking at the ground on purpose with the camera here because I want to show you. This is, when you buy Red Dog from Zager Mosaics, this is pretty much where it comes from, right here. There was a lot of Red Dog dumped right here in the big room. This is our big map room. Under this grass is just inches and inches of beautiful Red Dog. Okay, this is the hot metal wall, which a lot of you have been looking at for a few years now. It's finally come into its own. This is the front door from the other side, looking towards my house. Another one of my favorite framing lines of sight. And I'm going to point the camera down into this big ravine, which is hard to tell because there's so many weeds down there right now. But that is where the Jeffrey L. Sager Memorial Walking Bridge will be built this fall. It's happening. We are in the middle of the GoFundMe for the fundraiser to build a bridge, a handicap accessible bridge in memory of my father. This is what I've been calling lately intuitive marginalia. Marginalia is a really fun word that, when you're reading a great book that you're in love with, and you just have to make notes in the margin, or you have to sketch in the margins of the book for your own memory, or just to cement an idea. Okay, I have to keep up with my camera work. There's the pheasant again. This little area right to the right of the pheasant, where the wood, this wood beam goes straight up. I just want to direct your attention there because we dug up an old coal screener right here. It was one of the first things we found in the very beginning. It's about 6 feet by 4 feet, and it has big holes in it. And John Angelone from Charleroi, Pennsylvania, a local stained glass artist, took ownership of it. He's had it for almost 2 years now, has finished it. I'm going to show you a photograph of it at the very end, and it's going to be installed vertically right in this section. The sun is going to shine through the stained glass. There's 120 holes that he's filled with stained glass. It's very, very exciting. In a couple weeks, it's going to be coming. This is that intuitive marginalia again, which is my way of describing the playfulness around the bigger works. So it's, especially this gear wall, it's a place for artists to, that's a dead mango blah right there, have fun and experiment. That's what a lot of this wall has always been about. And I describe it as giving a big giant bear hug to the mosaic world. There's room for everybody on this wall. And nothing's ever quite finished. So you see that little micro mosaic inside of the gear, and you see the half moon that's waiting for more mosaic. This wall is all about what's next. Little fish skeleton by Marion Shapiro from Australia. And there's space around that one too for more mosaic. A cacophony of voices is one of the ways I describe this wall. This is the New England Mosaic Society. See all these gears in this big section right here. They were donated by the Charles River Museum of Industry. So they're authentically antique gears from a factory, and the New England artists work together. This little collection right here is the Austin Mosaic Guild. Wonderful, just colorful, fun collection. Lots of really small ones. I don't put restrictions on artists when they're working a gear. I let them come up with their own design, their own vision, whatever. As long as you use exterior grade everything, adhesive materials, then I don't put any limitations on what you do. And it's just a big hot mess. That's what I've been calling it. But it's a beautiful mess. I have Luce. She's on the tour. You'll see her a few times making some cameos. This little micro mosaic by Lindsay Packingham is worth a close-up. Beautiful. And Stories Told. We had a Scrabble game with these letters, I think it was last summer, and someone special came up with that phrase, so we decided to keep it. Minor. And that's Canada drawn on the wall. There is a team from Canada that will be building their country here in the ruins. They've been a little bit busy lately. Canada has been frying a lot of mosaic fish up there lately. They have shows all left, right, and center right now, but they'll get to it, I'm sure. Little micro mosaic by Lindy Criswell, Lynn Adamo. And the little people have been naming this Kelly Knickerbocker. I know she's a very abstract artist, but they have been dubbing those the New Orleans musicians there. And I just wanted to give a little shout out to New Orleans right now. We're thinking about them. The cathedral, again, the trees create a canopy, which is kind of a cathedral-ish feel too. And there's the arch from the inside, from the big room. Linda Knott has built England. This is our second country to arrive, and she just did a wonderful job using brick and coal and antique nails and 24 karat gold to represent the canal systems from England's Industrial Revolution. You know, the melting pot was a very real part of this coal mine. Immigrants right off the boat with no English, you know, being thrown into the hierarchy of this coal mine and having to figure it out, you know, becoming Americans here. Um, so bringing the countries to here in a mosaic way is, you know, there's a lot of poetic justice, a lot of layering of meaning going on. You know, I have several countries that have arrived, and we're always looking for more, whether they're coal or not. Brazil is coming in October, I believe. Carolina Kowal from Brazil will be making her way here, our country, and you can see Scotland in the distance. So this is on the far wall. Rachel Davies, Helen Miles created just a glowing mosaic of slate and brick and stone and white marble to the coastline. This is then symbolically clearance, which was a moment in Scottish time, and the to make room for the nuns, Scottish dice, which America certainly vibrant, rich mosaic by these two powerhouse Scottish artists. Lots of texture in this. You know, I always tell, and people when they come for a real tour, they say, "Can we touch things?" Or they, you know, they don't think they should touch things, but I encourage everyone to touch the mosaics, definitely. And they even included the islands, the Isle of Skye and Lewis, the Shetlands, the Hebrides. Scotland is very much at home in Witsit. And, you know, this is the biggest room here. It's huge. There's so much open space for the rest of the world. So, you know, I don't know how ambitious I'm going to be, but I'm certainly open to artists from other countries. You know, come to me and tell me if you want to, you know, to bring your country here. Oh, hello. Spiders are very, very prevalent in August, especially. Beautiful. And I'm going to move over to another wall now and zoom in on another landmass. This is not a country, but it is a continent. This is Antarctica by Linda Rosenblum. And I'm gonna really come in close so you can see the hand-pulled malmescato that she made herself, and the white marble. So this is a very cold mosaic. It feels cold. It feels like tundra and an iceberg. You know, the andamento is just very evocative, and I love how it hugs the bottom of Annabella Wooer's very hot piece. So cold and the hot right next to each other. Annabella Wooer's East Meets West, which is making that connection to the steel industry, the hot metal, the iron furnaces. You know, this has certainly become an iconic ruins piece with Annabella's masterful andamento. And, you know, she poured her own concrete to make the tessera. You know, this is a piece that was truly made from scratch. And another hot piece, very hot, Australia by Marion Shapiro and Caitlin Hepworth. It is literally a heat map of Australia. You know, those two artists have been living through the wildfires in many different ways. And I love this composition right here of seeing all three of those together, you know, the hot oranges and reds. And then, you know, panning over to the map, more orange with the bike trail. This is the Great Allegheny Passage. This is one of the first things that I had planned here from the very beginning, was to build this map. And it's still very much in progress. So I'm showing you it all at once because I just love how you can look at a composition in so many different ways with the camera here. Fayette County, that is a little cerulean warbler by Tami Bates. Other little cerulean warbler flirting with each other up here. Part of the Feather Project. Warm. That little X was the very first thing I ever put on the wall back in 2015. X marks the spot. And I think y'all have probably seen falling water before. Micro mosaic, that's the size that you would use for jewelry. And most of our landmarks are made with micro mosaic on this giant wall, which I think is a nice juxtaposition. It's a giant cross up on top of the mountain nearby here by Helga Maribel Sanchez. And coming up to Whitsett, you are here. This is where we are. That is the Leighton Bridge by Alan Punton. It's a local historical bridge that is going to be torn down soon. So we're really invested in kind of reviving it in Mosaic. The trail winds up to Pittsburgh, Three Rivers, and just looking at some of the concrete elements. The top of the stairs there is, oh, hello, Luz. It's really messy in the ruins right now. I'm going to show you this junk right here because I have a work crew coming in 2 days, and we're going to do a giant cleanup. I'm very excited about it. I love when people offer to come and help for things like that, not just mosaic things, but practical things. I'm going to come back through the front door and down the green corridor. This is one of the most special of the pillars right there to the left that we just passed. And I'm going to pass it and then turn. Oh, no, we're going to do the coke oven first. That's right. Yep. Coke oven. And Jennifer Case, this has become the perfect symbol for those spaces where nature and industry meet. When men come in to make things, whether it's coal or bricks or iron or whatever it is, nature has to take a back seat. Nature suffers. Nature gets paved, destroyed for certain periods of time. But the bees are, they call them beehive coke ovens, and the bees symbolize the hopefulness of nature winning the long game. Because I do believe that, when I first got here, nature was totally winning the long game on this this giant cement canvas. The trees had taken over this. It looked like a Mayan temple in the jungle, and I had to beat back the trees to make room for what we're doing. I know. We're going to look down into the ravine now, and there's some more pillars that are they're beautiful, moss-colored concrete pillars that used to hold bridges. There's going to be a squirrel sculpture down there by an artist from Eastern Pennsylvania. It's called the Squirrel of Possibility. So much of the ruins is what is possibility. I love that word. This is the Great Blue Heron by Brenda Grattan. I gave the Audubon bar, that's what I called my challenge to the Feather Project artists, create a bird that looks like it could jump off the pages of an Audubon book. And I feel like Brenda, I don't know, she might have won that bet. She really might have. This heron really pops and just kind of a pillar bird itself. And I show you the top of the pillar because we are planning a giant eagle's nest for the top of this. Not sure what it will be made of, possibly blacksmith metal with eggs. The American eagle, bald eagle, has made a wonderful comeback in the Youghiogheny River Valley here, and we want to celebrate that. One of my jobs is to decide what piece is next, and choosing a sculpture for the top of that. Now that the heron is there, the eagle's nest makes sense. I think the two will work really well together. My job just keeps getting harder. The flag and the color study. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. Deb Engelbaugh and myself. Back to the melting pot and all those people, all those different people coming together to do this one job. Looking up to the cathedral again. And then down. This is one of my favorite little spots, is the square hole, which we call the alchemical lens. Looking through, sometimes there's a cat in there, but not today. And the symbol of alchemy through the other side. And a little bit of intuitive marginalia here. Just the little flourishes by Deb Engelbaugh again. Clay, sandstone. And I mentioned the coke ovens. There were 46,000 coke ovens in this area during the Industrial Revolution, and they were probably the dirtiest part of the whole industry. When the coke ovens would be firing, everything that was coming out of their chimneys was what made Pittsburgh, the smog city and the gray skies. So we're working on making these tiny little clay coke ovens in volume. We're not gonna make 46,000 of them, but we are gonna make hundreds possibly. So they're just stamped clay, each stamped a little bit differently, but they all have the same shape, and fired in the kiln. And let's see what's next. The color study. This was me having fun with my color library. This is all vintage Italian smalty, 50 colors for the 50 states, representing all those people, coming off the boats and becoming Americans, the different cultures, different music, different food, different denominations, different colors, heavily Eastern European population in the beginning, and then later the African American population came into this coal mine, and that is certainly a legacy that Banning Number 2 has created in this Witsit area. That big tree right there is a tulip poplar, and I've been told that is one of the favorite trees for bees. And I love that it's right next to the beehive coke oven. I thought that was pretty cool. Trouble, just one of my favorite words. I just like trouble. And the threshold. Kathleen Edwards of Ontario has made a pebble mosaic 6 feet by 4 feet that is going to fit over this section. We're going to pour a new pad. She's bringing it across the border in the next few weeks, we hope. 700 pounds. It's a huge project. It's finished. It just needs to be installed. So once it gets here, we will be hopefully taking our shoes off and walking over it, very symbolically, because I think that's what you're supposed to do with pebble mosaics. I'll show you a picture of that at the end of that mosaic. And now we're moving into the threshold room. It's an outdoor room. I'm calling those angles that jut out right there. We're looking at them again from this way. The buttresses, which is another piece of a cathedral buttress. Now we're coming up to the fan house, which is an older brick structure. And we have 2 windows here. We're going to have 2 curtains. Right now we just have the 1 curtain hanging. Sophie Druin got this whole party started with knitting a copper curtain out of copper wire. And Leanne Taylor has finished this one, and we have it hanging. So it's a curtain made of wire, and it feels like a curtain. It hangs like a curtain. It just glows with the sun. And I like to think of it as a symbol of civilization and order and the home, which is an idea that we're going to be exploring with the threshold metaphor. So it's not always just going to be about the coal miners. We're going to be talking about the matriarchs and the women and the children in the community, And that this curtain maybe is just our first little step in that direction.
So this winds up the first half of the ruins tour. So give me 1 second while
That went fast.
Huh?
That went fast.
I know. Here we go with part 2. Sorry for the. Okay, now we are going to go into part 2.
Okay, we are coming to the portrait gallery now. This is our official gallery. We have 3 men, 3 very different men by 3 very different artists. I'm going to go right to the Anonymous Miner first by Margie Cottingham. I call him the Anonymous Miner because he tells the story that we're never going to get to tell. I have heard a phrase recently about something about every untold story is a tragedy. I'm going to go back. We'll go back to him in a minute, but every untold story is a tragedy, and he represents the miner that will never get his story told. This miner is getting his story told. This is William Henry Mills by Joy Parker from Scotland. He was a real man. He was one of those African-American men who moved from the South to work in this mine. He worked here his whole life. He got to be an old man in Witsit. He had lots of kids. The little frog is part of his story. I'm afraid I don't have the time to bring that part to life. There's just too many things to talk about. But William Henry Mills came all the way from Scotland, and we're very honored to have had a lot of his family, his descendants, here for his unveiling in the spring. And these names here were my first shipping sponsorship. So everybody in the ruins works for free. They work because they want to be a part of what's happening here. But especially international shipping can be a real hardship for artists. So I did a call to help William get across the ocean, and all those wonderful people directly helped Joy to ship him, and it worked. It was great. Here's some more marginalia, some little patch towns, some lyrics from 16 Tons, those old coal songs. Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't call me because I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Margie Cottingham and I worked around her mosaic just a month or so ago on that marginalia, and it's really there we go. A coal miner's daughter. She is a coal miner's daughter. And now we come over to my father. Donna Van Hooser created my father, Jeff Sager, just this year, just for this spot. I make a point to say that it's not nepotism that he ended up on this wall. None of this would be happening if it weren't for my father. He taught me how to see the big picture, how to look to the future, how to understand the earth beneath my feet. And a very, very special man. And Donna has such a style, such a different style. Each one of these portraits has its own signature, and hers is based on hue and tone of color. There's a little arrowhead right there. That's from his personal collection, and I gave that to Donna, and she built it into his shirt. So I come back here and I talk to him. It's a really wonderful gift to have him here. Little Americas, little patch towns, railroad. And you might notice that there is one more empty space in the gallery for another portrait. This is the passenger pigeon. It's an extinct bird. We hunted this one until it was gone. It's a very, very sad story. A little bit of William and the buttresses. And the Baltimore Oriole by Janice Nunez. He's floating right now, but you can see the sketches of the trees. Those will be painted sycamores by Beverly Nicolai. She's one of our 2 ruins painters. So for the feather project, we decided to paint the trees, we're really happy with that decision because it lets the birds pop and the trees just kind of become a part of the concrete. Here's some more marginalia, the mountain range. This is just some nice close-ups of material. So you're going to see shale, sandstone, lots of really high-class red dog right there. Shells, fossils. When I say high-class red dog, I mean the kind that you can see the black shale and the red at the same time. See those ones that are two-tone? That's the good stuff. And then turning the corner, you can see Wendy Casperson's arrow in the distance. We'll get closer to that later. And I'm going to bring you into a new section. This is a new part of the tour that we just opened up this spring. You know, there's been a wild west here for a while, and we're starting to civilize certain areas, dig things out, you know, clear brush. This little alcove here has the barn owl by Stephen Merling, part of the feather project. We painted the barn beam for the owl. I believe that's all stained glass. And we're coming up to the warhorse, a sculpture by Helen Knock. The horses were a very important part of this coal mine. There was horsepower used exclusively in the beginning. Helen has a horse from, I think, pretty much the junkyard. She works with Detrius. She built his skeleton from things she found from the dump, and the shards. She's lovingly cut and polished so much that they feel like leather. This is probably the smoothest. You just want to pet this horse. I do. That's why I'm petting it. Little copper ears. You know, the horses had a rough life, just like the men did. Some horses were born in a mine, worked their whole life in a mine, and died in a mine. That's why we call her the warhorse. And another new section, back to this little hidden alcove, which has quite a surprise in it. This is The Guardian Angel by Cindy Robin of Chicago. Full-size man. His wings, possibly one of the strangest materials that we have going here. She made his wings from hundreds of CDs that she cut into the shapes of feathers, and then his body is all geology. Eventually, he's going to be, you know, he's just arrived recently. Moss is going to become a part of his aesthetic eventually. So he's going to look like he's been here, almost like he's growing from the ground. He's like grounded and ethereal at the same time. Some coal miner paraphernalia, lantern, helmet, lunchbox. And let's see, what's my next? Moss is a big part of everything that happens here. We have moss everywhere. Oh, I love this far shot. You know, where you see the buttresses from afar, and the oriole. Imagine what those trees will look like. And then I'm going to pan onto this blank wall and point back into the woods here. And this is an area that has been a dump. You know, a lot of this has been dumped. Oh, I have to switch. Sorry. Okay. The Scarlet Tanager by Margaret Shaw is taking flight up into the sky there. And you've probably seen the porcupine before, but the porcupine's baby is new. Sherry Grassmuck made the porcupine years ago, and then decided to make her baby for her and sent her in the mail. It's pretty cool of her. So this room is full of animals. You know, we're going back farther in time, before the coal, and we're using animals to bring that world to life. And again, the arrow, which is eventually going to be a 26 feet long. With every few feet, Wendy changes material, and I'm going to zoom in on this, which is another very odd tessera. These are teeth, deer teeth tessera that Wendy forages, finds herself, pulls out of skulls, freshwater clams from the river, pebbles, red dog, taconite pellets, gold, little pebbles wrapped in wire, tied with feathers. Just, you know, really, you really think about, you know, when you hear about how the Native Americans would use every part of the animal, that's what this arrow is kind of becoming, and it's evolving as time goes on. Trout, so we have a little river scene up here. Beverly Nikolai is helping create the paint behind there. The biggest thing we have, Steve Sedvari, 67 feet long, 7 feet high. I call it the biggest mosaic train in the world. And I love how I think this is the smallest bird of the feather project, the black-capped chickadee by Linda Biggers. And I put it on the biggest mosaic we had. So that just that makes me laugh. Another black-capped chickadee by Sarah Barter. Totally same bird, different artist. See how totally different two artists can interpret a bird. And then there's another little chickadee. So the feather project is, you know, well underway, but there's still quite a few birds being made behind the scenes too. We have a lot happening. We have a kestrel, we have a mockingbird coming, a mourning dove. These are the maple trees painted by Jan Don Gilly. She's our other very talented painter in the ruins. And here we go, the Starling by Murray Swinnon. We put him on a metal pipe. Starlings are known for liking to nest in man-made structures, so that's why we gave him that nest.
Just enjoy the other sound effect that is going to go on with the rest of the video. It was raining as Rachel filmed, so also appreciate the fact that Rachel did this tour while it was raining.
Yeah. That hole that I just showed you has been a nest for a real bird, a mourning dove, for 3 years in a row. So I've gotten to see a mourning dove lay have her babies in that hole. And so I'm hoping she comes back next spring. It's quite a treat to have a real bird in a fake tree. A little bit of weather. This is the drunk waxwing by Fiddly Mosaics. And the serviceberry tree is painted by Beverly McFly. So we're in the chapel now. And this is a room with a lot of really good energy. The sun, there's no sun right now because it's raining, but the sun shines down through this opening in a very sacred kind of way. Sure. Pine tree by Jan Donjili. So
Rachel, talk
yes.
just a little. Rachel, just talk a little bit louder.
Okay. Okay. We have. I love the lines of sight here where you see the layers of trees. You see the pine in the foreground, the maple in the background, and then those tiny rings all the way back on that far wall. This is the ruffed grouse by Linda Rosenblum, the state bird of Pennsylvania. It's really sad though. We don't see these ruffed grouse at all anymore, even though they're our state bird. We never get any. Wren by Karina Beryl, that cute little wren. The blue jay by Helga Maribel Sanchez, who has just been out doing herself, her bird work. She's working on the wild turkey right now. Beautiful bird. Really looks like a blue jay. And the cardinals, and there's a little eastern screech owl up there too. So this pine tree is full of birds. It's kind of like an ornithology lesson at this point. People who know birds are really having fun identifying the mosaics. That's the pileated woodpecker in the distance. Tiny ring wall. See that big open space to the left there on that wall? I have a really special Venn diagram planned for that for next year. Some of you may be familiar with my Venn diagram, my Venn composition course at Mosaic Arts Online that I teach. We're going to create a giant Venn diagram here. Close up of the head of the arrow feathers. It's Marcellus shale. And we're going to turn the corner into a new room. I'm really excited to show you guys this. This is Gila Rayberg's Master of Horse. Gila was just here today and yesterday, and we worked in this room. And you're not seeing what we did because this video was filmed before, which is kind of cool actually. But there's one portrait in this room, and it's been a bit of a no man's land for about a year, and I've just been waiting, and the time has come. This room has is coming into its own, and I'd like to kind of make an announcement, I guess. You know, I talked about that unknown, the unknown miner, the anonymous miner, and how every untold story is a tragedy. I want, there's the horse from the other side. I want this room to be layered and layered with real people. I want to bring as many real people back to life, not just the men again, but the women and the wives and the mothers and the daughters and the sons and the characters. There's so many great stories from this little town, and I want to bring them all here. And so one of my new challenges is going to be finding portrait artists who want to jump into this room and help me create that feeling of when you walk into a cathedral and you're just overwhelmed by all of the portraits of the saints and the angels, and there's just almost too many faces to look at. That's what I want that room to feel like. And I think we can do it. And every portrait will be different, just like the portrait gallery. You know, every artist will bring their own vision and their own style to the person that they might choose. It's a dark room, but I think that might actually work in our favor. Again, this is one of my favorite lines of sight where you can see birch, pine, and the maple. And there's a little bit of Ruins whimsy down there with the rabbit. Kim Porter's rabbit with a mouthful of grass. Every once in a while, you need a little bit of childlike wonder. Kingfisher by Robinson Moyer. Very detailed little bird. And one of the things I love about this area right here, is that you get a little bit tricked between the painted trees and the real trees. And here we come to the tiny ring wall, which has been a crazy adventure in MAO and Palati. The Eastern Bluebirds by Christine Hume. There's a male and a female. The male's down here. But the tiny rings, there are 500, I think, on the wall at this point. 500 of, not 500 artists, but I don't know how many of you have participated in this MAO project, but every single one is different. They're anonymous. We have hot colors, we have cool colors, warm colors. Some people made their own, some people used purchased. Some people did 3, some people did 50. So it's been quite a wild ride. And we have a couple hundred left, so there are still more to be installed over time. And I do teach this technique. Just occurred to me just the other day that these rings are, I don't know. I mean, you kind of get the feeling of stained glass, you know, because now that I'm thinking about the cathedral, I'm looking for connections to make with the idea of the cathedral, and stained glass is certainly, you know, a big part of the cathedrals. And another one of my favorite shots is looking over the tiny ring wall onto the gear wall, so you see the circles and then the circles in the background. I love that. Little blue grosbeak there sitting on the rings too. Okay, this is our last little video. We're going to do a tiny little install for the last video. And this is Erica Johnson. She is, her official title is Ruins Fairy. She is always sprinkling magic around and helping me with all kinds of wonderful things. This little thistle was made by Bonnie Fitzgerald for the Ruins map specifically, and it is a symbol of Touchstone Center for Craft, which is a really special craft school up on the mountain about an hour from here. And it's a lot of mosaic artists have spent time there. It's just a really great place. I became a teacher at Touchstone. That was my very first class I ever taught, was up there. And I've been wanting to have to represent Touchstone on our big map wall. And Bonnie helped us out. Thank you very much, Bonnie. And so Erica's just going to, get some thin set and do a little back buttering. Nothing fancy. In some ways, a tiny installation is the same as a big installation. We work pretty simply here. We have the luxury of perfect concrete walls for our substrates. They just need some cleaning. When we get ready, we get a wire brush and we scrub. Sometimes we have to scrub moss off. And then we use a softer brush to make sure there's no, little pieces of dust or concrete flaking off, so we get a nice clean surface. So she's going to back butter this little thistle. But like I said, whether you're putting a country up or a portrait up, or this tiny little thing, it's kind of the same idea. 6 years in now, which means 5 winters that we have been through, 5 Pennsylvania winters, freeze thaw, very cold, and we're not having damage. We're doing things right. We're using high quality exterior mortar. We love Laticrete, but we're open to all the different kinds of brands, of course. And sometimes it's just nice just to watch a little bit of back buttering with a tiny little palette knife. So this would be considered a landmark on the map wall, like Falling Water or the Leighton Bridge. We're probably going to do a Flight 93 at some point because that's on this map too. Yakagani Glass will end up here too. That's a very world-class glass factory about a half an hour away that makes stained glass that we've been using a lot of. That's what Steve-O's train is built from. So she's just doing a little massage. Simple. And she's going to get a brush and feather. Sorry about my amateur videography. Just going to feather out that thin set. We always use gray for our installs. You know, we use black thin set mortar for making the mosaic a lot of the time, but always gray for the walls, because as I show you right here, you see how it just blends right into the wall. There's a lot of thin set right there, and you know, it just works perfectly with our concrete. So, and then after Erica brushes here, she's going to add a little ski jump. It's one of the ways I describe kind of the final treatment for an install, especially one that is open to the air. This one is completely open to the elements in every way. There's no roof here. So she's going to put a little bit of extra thin set up here to be sure that the water doesn't work its way behind the mosaic. And that is always the devil. You always have to think about how water can get in, get behind your mosaic, because that's when it's going to pop off. You know, I spent, oh my goodness, first half of my mosaic career being so insecure about exterior work. I always, I just resisted and resisted working outside because I didn't think I knew how to do it. And then I ended up, buying this coal mine by accident, and I had to, I just had to do it. And I learned trial by fire that it's really not that hard. There's a few little tricks, use the right materials and the right adhesives. Now, just looking at the whole big picture here, and then we'll just come in on the thistle. The landmarks have been so much fun on this map, and they are giving it kind of a Tolkien-ish feel, I think. Tolkien made some of the best maps in literature, I think, from my memory anyway, because they had so much personality. All the little landmarks made you feel like you were in the world. And that's what we want to do with this map eventually. So I can see some little shale mountain ranges popping up eventually. So, even though the bike trail path is set, there's still a lot more fun to be had on this map for sure. And we're really at the end here. This is the end. There we go. That's the end. This is that wonderful stained glass cold screener that I told you about, that is finished, and there's no sunlight shining through this right now. So try to imagine that this is all stained glass and it's going to be set vertically. The sun shines through it. It's going to transform that front door where that the pheasant is. We're going to install it on posts, so it'll be permanent. And this is Kathleen Edwards' pebble mosaic, the threshold, 6 foot by 4 foot, so it's really large. And again, I can't wait to walk across that one barefoot. So there you go. Thank you for listening. That was a lot of talking.
That was a lot of talking. But one of the things I'll say about Rachel is she has one of the most calming voices. So for that last hour. It has been so relaxing and so beautiful to just be a viewer of this tour. And it's so different than last year. So thank you so much for the time and energy you put into it and the beautiful videography. It was stunning.
Oh,
You
geez.
you call yourself an amateur, call yourself whatever you want, but Rachel, just gorgeous. And I mean, I could sit here for another hour and just ask you a million questions, as you know. And I haven't been to the ruins in about 4 years, so much has
That
happened
long.
since then.
That long. Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
God.
I think been about 4 years since we were
Wow.
there, and wow. I mean, one of the things I'll say about Rachel and I that we have in common is that I don't think if you asked us 10 years ago that we'd be doing what we're doing now full time. But one thing we both have in common is our jobs, which as entrepreneurs, we own our own businesses, is it fully consumes us. But because we're passionate about it, because we love it, and we can't imagine doing anything differently. And so it's really special to watch you, dive in and now share this with us. And the other similarity I was going to say that's kind of beautiful about doing what we did today is similarly to Mosaic Arts Online is that you can take 10 or 12 people on a tour and physically show them, the ruins, which is obviously like breathtaking. But for those of us that can't physically get there right away, the virtual is just amazing and really incredible to watch. And then to say the same thing about Mosaic Arts Online, for those that can physically get to a workshop, it's wonderful. But to have the virtual opportunity to learn just as much and the same information as the teachers teach, then it's a great way to learn online and have it to watch over and over and over again. So it's a nice merging of the two. And we know we've had you captured for 1 hour. So before you go, we are going to take some questions. So if you want to stay on longer to take questions, but we do want to offer you a bonus gift for staying with us till the end that Rachel has been so generous to do. And just so you know, Rachel has 9 courses with Mosaic Arts Online, not to mention the bundles that are in her lineup and her free course on the difference between shale and slate. So with 9 courses to choose from, we'd like to offer you a 15% discount off of all of Rachel's courses. That's as much as I could list was all. But what you can do is if you go into the search bar on Mosaic Arts Online, you can search Rachel's name and all of her courses and the bundles will come up. So a 15% discount on the bundles is unbelievable. That is truly an incredible savings. This will expire tomorrow night at midnight. So you do have a very short time to jump on. But if you're new to Mosaic Arts Online, just because you found us on the YouTube channel, you go over to mosaicartsonline.com, enroll for free, and that just puts you in with an email and a password. And then you can search Rachel's name and you will then see all the courses that she's offering. We have free promo videos for every course. Some of them have snippets into the course so you can see what Rachel's teaching. But Rachel no longer teaches live. So this is the only way that you can learn from Rachel. She does not teach live anymore. All of her teaching is now exclusively at Mosaic Arts Online. So with that, did everyone see the Ruins 21 is the code that you put in? So at purchase, click on add coupon and put in Ruins 21. It will also be in the comment section of this video right now. So on that note, I would like to take a couple questions if anyone has any questions. And the way it works is please put them in the chat. And Jerry, who's producing on the other side of the camera, will send those questions to me. I will ask them and Rachel will answer them. So do we have any questions?
Ruins 2021.
The coupon code is Ruins 2021.
Okay.
So is she looking for anyone from Costa Rica?
Someone is asking if you have Costa Rica yet set up for the map room.
Sure. I'm open to that. Yeah.
She's
Send
open
me an
to it.
email. Send me
Send
an
an email to Rachel and she will coordinate if that's an opportunity.
Actually, you know what? Maybe I changed that. Instagram message is really my preferred way to get messages about everything. I like to keep it just right there because Instagram is my main venue. So Instagram message would be better.
Okay, so there you go. Anything you want to head out to Rachel, you just go to Sager Mosaics on Instagram and then click the message button and she can get your information from you there.
Margaret is asking if there's a link to all the artists' names and pieces.
I'll let Rachel answer that because it's coming. Yes. Did you hear that, Rachel?
Thank Yes, thank you. That's a great
Say that.
question.
And can you
The
repeat
ruins
it,
that-
Rachel? Repeat the question because I don't think people heard.
Oh, is what was it? Is there a
Is there
database?
a full list of all the artists that have participated in the ruins?
So the Ruins Fairy, Erica Johnson, who had that last install with me, is helping me create the very first spreadsheet database right now behind the scenes. Everything so far has been up here, and that's not that's not a safe place. I have like everything in different books, and we're putting it all on the computer finally in a very formal way, which is going to be really important moving forward. So not yet, but soon. Yes. So
Someone's asking because the back of the thistle, when Erica was installing it, was like a chocolate brown and it was smooth. What was the back behind the tessera?
I'm pretty sure that was epoxy sculpt. I think she built the whole thing from epoxy sculpt.
So epoxy sculpt on top of the tessera goes on top of the epoxy sculpt, and then the epoxy sculpt can go straight onto the concrete.
Yeah, and epoxy sculpt is exterior grade, so we love using it out, for tiny rings or gears or whatever. Yeah.
Christopher's asking, how does one participate in contributing Malmisciato rings?
So the way you participate in the Malmisciato rings is to contact Rachel again through the message button on Instagram. And when they're ready to release more rings, then you will receive your rings to make the Malmisciato rings.
Yeah, that might be a winter. We might do another mailing for winter. Right now it's on hold. I did so much shipping of rings for so long that I had to take a break. If you're anywhere near me, you can come up and pick up the rings right at the studio and take them with you and then send them back to me, which is really preferable. But I might do a mailing this winter. So yeah.
Michelina from, I think, Australia. Yeah, Australia right now. Oh, good to hear from you. She is asking if any of the issues happen on the glazes of the ceramics with a freeze thaw.
Great question. We do not glaze. So we do one high firing. We only do one firing, and then we paint with usually acrylic. That's how we get the color on our clay. And then we have a special stone sealer that we use to paint over the paint. And we do that 1 to 2 times a year. So we have a special stone sealer. We have little paintbrushes, and we go across everything, all the clay, and repaint the stone sealer. And that, so we don't have to worry about the glazes popping off because there aren't any.
So we have one of our viewers is actually one of the instructors from Create Arts Online, Helen Schaefer Garcia, who we just finished filming her course yesterday. But what she's asking is how many rooms are at the ruins? Not a common question.
6, maybe 6. Yeah, I've never thought to count the rooms exactly. I would say 6. Mm-hmm.
And now someone that might be new to the ruins, explain the fact that this is not, as many would know, because you have to go down underground for the coal. But what are these abandoned rooms exactly?
Right. So it's not the coal mine itself. It is the processing plant for the coal mine, which was where they brought the coal after they brought it out of the mine, and they screened it, they organized it. It was also the ventilation room. So they had big fans that they pulled air out of one of the openings to vent the mine. So it was very much electrified. It had water. It was about what they did to the coal before they took it down to the train.
Sure.
Well, it looks like if anyone has any more questions, now's your chance. Otherwise, we'd like to thank you, Rachel, so much for joining us for this hour of just such a beautiful experience. And wait, Jerry's got his finger up. I think we
Are
have
the ruins open all the time or seasonal?
Are the ruins open all the time or seasonal?
They are open for tours year round by appointment only. You have to have an appointment for a tour. We only work in the ruins when the temperatures are above 50 degrees at night. So we have a season, which is late spring through early fall, or, depends. Sometimes there's a little bit of wiggle room on the shoulder seasons, but when it's winter, we work in our studios. You can still make ruins work in the winter, but it you have to send it probably, and then it gets installed at the appropriate time.
Awesome.
And you can book, the way to book it for is to go to the website, sagermosaics.com, and you can pick your calendar date and your time, and then you just show up at the studio and I take you over.
It's quite highly technical what they've created with their website. It's amazing how it has all the information on there. One more question. Someone's asking what type of clay that you used for all the names that are stamped and the other bits that you've put on the walls.
That is I just do what I'm told with the clay. Would have to ask Deb Engelbaugh on that one. It's high fire. I know it goes up to 1800 degrees in my kiln, but I don't know that, like, the number. I think it's cone 6. That might be the answer to that, cone 6.
But it's just ceramic. It's ceramic clay for porcelain or ceramic.
We are working on, though. We are working on doing tests right now. My dad owns some property right over the hill that he called the clay mine, which it was a clay mine, and it's very high quality clay. And we're going to be testing it in the kilns soon, which means that we might soon be using our actual Sager clay, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it looks like we don't have any more questions. And so I want to thank everyone again for staying with us through this beautiful Ruins Tour 2021. And we may have to slip one in this winter because Rachel has been so busy and it has become such a prolific project. And there's going to be so much more to share that we might have to really add a second one, before this time next year. So I can't thank you again, Rachel, for doing this. It's been a pleasure to have you here. And again, if you have a desire for any of Rachel's courses, now is your chance with the coupon code RUINS 2021 on all of Rachel's courses for 15% off. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you guys again soon with our next live coming up in another month or so.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. We're out.